Hello friends, welcome to GS Core, and like every day we will be going through daily current affairs and we will be helping you to use that information to crack MCQs. So basically we will be skilling you. So let us see the important topics of the day. First and foremost, the office of president was in news. Then Indian coasts were in news because of increase in tourist. Then EFTA, that is European Free Trade Agreement, Food and Agriculture Organization, and also the gig economy. Alright, so these were the important topics of the day. Now let us look into the concepts, the important themes of current affairs for today. So President of India, basically the office of president came in news, and the reason why the office of president has been in news is the election that is now coming up, election of Lok Sabha. President in a way plays a vital role in Lok Sabha elections. Though in an era where we see complete majority, we see a particular party getting complete majority, role of president is in a way minimized. But that does not mean the president's role is completely eliminated. President still plays a significant role in Indian polity. Alright, President of India basically is the head of state, and all executive decisions of the union are taken in the name of president. In fact, the most important executive decision taken by the president is appointment of prime minister. Appointment of prime minister. Okay, if you take into consideration the election of president, so we have an elected president, and because we have an elected president, what do we also can say India is a republic. Alright, India basically is a republic. So chalo, elected president, let us talk about it a bit more. Election of president first and foremost is indirect. Okay, first and foremost the election of president is indirect. Okay, who votes? People do not directly vote. Member of parliament, elected members of parliament, basically elected members of legislative assemblies of the state, and elected members of legislative assemblies of union territories. They basically vote in the election of president. Second thing, for the purpose of winning the presidential election, the candidate has to secure the electoral college. Electoral college is one vote more than 50% of the vote, you can say. 50% of the total number of votes. 50% of the total number of votes polled. Other than that, it has to be remembered that until the new president is elected, present president will continue. President will continue. All right. Also, what we see is the election. In the election, the president election is conducted through secret ballot. Is basically conducted through secret ballot. All right. So, which vote is given to which candidate is not known. Now let us look at the questions. My dear friends, let us now look at the questions. With respect to President of India, consider the following statements. To win presidential election, a candidate must secure more than 50% of the valid votes polled. Absolutely correct. Okay, we have seen over here at least one vote more than 50%. Okay, value of the vote should be 1 plus 50%. That is electoral college. There is a technical name for it. Remember it. It is electoral college. Okay. Second, in case of delay in conducting election of new president, vice president of India holds office until the president's successor assumes office. No, the president will continue until and unless the new president is elected. The current president will continue. So second statement is wrong. Voting of presidential election is done through open ballot system to ensure office transparency and integrity? No, it is done through secret ballot. Secret ballot. So how many statements are basically correct? A. Only one statement is correct, so our answer will be A. Our answer basically will be A. Moving on to the second question. Now, Indian coastline has been news. Why? Because in the coastal states, especially the western coast, what do we see? We see a rise in tourist. And this rise in tourism is a mover, a significant mover of Indian economy. Tourism has great potential with respect to employment generation, and with respect to foreign tourists, what do we see? It stimulates exports. It basically stimulates exports. Okay. If we look at the western coast of India, what do we notice? That the western coast of India is submerged coast. Alright, it is basically submerged coast. Okay. And because it is a submerged coast, it has a short continental shelf. Now continental shelf, having a short continental shelf, what does it create? It creates natural harbors. देखो continental shelf, if it is small, what basically happens is the ships are able to come near the coastline, and therefore we see so many of good natural harbors on the western coast. For example, you can take the example of Mumbai, you can take the example of Mangalore, or before independence you can take the example of Karachi also. That is the significance of submerged coast. That is basically the significance of submerged coast. Mostly submerged coast is found during faulting activities, when faults are created. Okay? And one of the areas where the faults are created, that basically submerges in the sea. Alright. Opposite to submerged coast, there are also emergent coast. There is also something called as emergent coast, and it is completely opposite to what happens in submerged coast. So यहाँ पे what happens is the land moves down, यहाँ पे the piece of land basically moves up. Okay, so let us look at the question with respect to coastal landforms. The Mumbai coast of Gulf of Kutch and Mangalore coast, all of them basically are on the western coast. All of them are part of the western coast. Are classic examples of, we have just seen a submerged coast. It is submerged coast. Chalo. Moving on now to the next item in news, and it is with respect to EFTA. It is European Free Trade Association. European Free Trade Association, with which India has signed agreement. India basically has signed agreement. Alright, what this free trade association, what the signing of free trade agreement, association, European Free Trade Association. What the signing of this agreement will basically do is, it will allow India to trade with 4 European countries. 4 European countries who are not part of EU, who are basically not part of EU. And which are these countries? There is Iceland, there is Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland. Okay. Now this organization, what will happen is, with respect to trade, with respect to trade with this particular organization, na, both India and India and these four countries will provide for reduced tariff and help boost India's trade with these countries. It will also in a way pressurize European Union to enter into free trade agreement with India. ठीक है. In a way, it will pressurize European Union to enter into free trade agreement with India, which has been stuck for a very long period of time due to reasons like service trade. ठीक है, service trade. Then we also have migration, issues like migration, all those things. All right. Let us look at the question. Consider the following statements. The European Free Trade Association is an intergovernmental organization of Iceland, Ukraine, Norway and Switzerland. Nahi, Ukraine is not part of it. Okay. EFTA was formed by Stockholm Convention in 1960. Yes, it was formed by Stockholm Convention of 1960. So second statement is basically correct. Our answer therefore will be only 2. ठीक है, 2 only. That is B. Option is the correct answer. Third question. Let us move to it. Third question. So, what has happened is Food and Agricultural Organization, one of specialized agencies of UN. Specialist agencies of UN. It conducted a study. It basically conducted a study, and in this study, what was found? That children of the age from 6 to 23 months, ठीक है, who do not consume food for 24 hours period, their number is increasing. ठीक है. In fact, we today have 19.3% of such children who basically are not able to consume food sometimes for 24 hours or more. All right, and if you take into consideration, now we are ranked third with respect to such countries. First two countries are Guyana and Mali, which are located in sub-Saharan Africa. So this is quite a disturbing number for India. यहाँ से ना, what I want you to do is, I want you to look into the definition of nutrition, malnutrition. ठीक है. I want you to look into these two definitions because UPSC currently is interested in such type of definition. If I talk about Food and Agricultural Organization itself, so what do we see? It is a voluntary organization. As I said, it is one of the specialist agencies of UN, but still it is a voluntary organization. People associated in it are voluntary, associate themselves on a voluntary basis. It is multi-stakeholder organization. So both civil society and countries are part of it. ठीक है. And its membership is basically increasing with time. It contributes towards achieving mandate of United States with respect to ending hunger and poverty by 2030. So it is one of the SDGs or Sustainable Development Goals. Guys, I want you to get into what are SDGs. What are basically SDGs. Chalo, let us now look into the question. With reference to Food and Agricultural Organization consider the following statements. Consider the following statements. First, it is world's largest humanitarian organization addressing hunger and promoting food security. This particular statement is correct. Second statement, it is a specialized agency of United Nations. This statement is also correct. All right, next statement, if you take into consideration, it started globally important agriculture heritage system. This statement is also correct. So what does this system basically does is, globally important agricultural system, what it does is it safeguards and supports heritage of world agriculture. That means diversity of crops. Alright, so all these statements are correct. Our answer therefore will be, how many statements are correct? 3 statements are correct. C will be our answer. Now let us go to gig economy or gig workers. So gig workers basically have been in news for many years now. And the reason for that is rise of gig economy. What are gig workers? Gig workers are basically, companies like Blinkit or Zomato. So the work of this particular gig workers is delivery of products. In minimum time period. Okay, so what basically happens is, what has been seen with respect to gig workers is, gig workers join the sector first and foremost due to financial necessities, and in this sector, high-end educated and technically skilled employees are rewarded handsomely. ठीक है. On the other hand, gig workers are paid the lowest amount of salary in organized sector. ठीक है. So that to a certain extent amounts to discrimination. Alright, also what do we see is, there is very little leverage. Alright, there is very little leverage that gig workers could hold. Gig workers can hold, though there is diversity in the field, especially with respect to nature of companies. Let us now get into the two statements and let us see whether they are correct or incorrect and whether they are related to each other or not. First statement, gig workers in India, the gig economy in India predominantly favors skilled workers, limiting the benefit for workers with low skill levels. Absolutely. Especially with respect to the skilled professionals पूछा है ना, they are asking a skilled professional. So yes, there is limited scope for low skill workers. Second statement, government policies in place may not sufficiently address the challenges confronted by big gig workers, particularly regarding job security and social protection, absolutely. Second statement is also correct. Rajasthan though became the first state which provided security to gig workers. Alright, rest of the states are still to come up with such protection plan, and even central government has not worked upon it. So what do we see is both statements are correct, but there does not exist a relation between the two, and hence what we will say is option B is the correct option. Both statements are correct, but statement B does not explain statement 1. Alright friends, thank you so much for joining in. We'll meet soon. Bye.